Open your ears and lube up your butthole. It's time for the What Do We Call It podcast. Now, here's your host. It's Jmann. Welcome to the What Do We Call It podcast. I'm Jmann. So I'm not alone this time. I actually got somebody to come over and record with me. So sitting in with me is Steiny, a.k.a. Other Neil.
Okay. I wasn't sure which moniker I was going with here.
Either or works. You're not number one fan, Tim, so it may be a little surprising. The first topic I want to tackle tonight is the topic of regret. And there's kind of a divided mindset about it, right? Because you get the crowd that says, don't live with regrets, no regrets.
Mm-hmm.
I see those people as being both Neanderthals and really fucking selfish. Like, you're a douchebag if you don't look back at anything you've done and go, oh my God, what a piece of shit I was.
Absolutely. I don't know how anybody could live their life without looking back at a situation and regret. That's almost kind of human nature and human emotion to have that ability to look back and go, there's something I should have done better there, or I could have handled that better. You know what I mean?
Right. And my therapist and I were discussing this. The point of regret is that you're showing remorse. You've gone back and reflected on something you did, and you didn't get the result that you wanted. So now you've done some introspection, and you're like, fuck, I should have done this differently. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. Oh, I should have been more caring, more compassionate. I should have listened more and talked less. And that's really the crux of, like, our society right now, is it seems like so many people are just like, either I'm going to say whatever and fuck it, wee! Or else they're sitting there biting their nails, knowing that somebody's looking to nail them to a proverbial cross for something they did forever ago. Like tweets, for example.
Right.
You tweet something like Kevin Hart did years ago.
Yes. Yep.
He made those, I'm going to air quote this, homophobic tweets. And then it cost him hosting the Oscars, which I thought was bullshit. Because he's like, years ago I thought that was funny. Now, it's not as funny, but it was a joke. And he showed, like, he thought about it. It probably was a little bit of a forced apology, but still the fact that he apologized for it. And so many people today aren't given that opportunity to simply say, I fucked up, I think differently, I'm better now. Here's how my views have changed, because so many people just want to, no, fucking cancel you, you son of a bitch, how dare you?
You know, what I think is interesting is a lot of these people that are all up in arms and ready to come, at the walls with pitchforks and torches and all that for past comments and all that. How many of them have said stupid stuff themselves in the past? I know myself in my early 20s, I used to say outrageous things just because I thought I was being funny. I thought other people found me funny. You know what I mean?
Trying to be edgy.
Exactly. You're drunk even. You know what I mean? And you're the funniest guy in the room saying stupid stuff. And I can't believe how many people I probably offended. And kind of just the backwards way of thinking I had back then. And I've matured. But if somebody were to come back at me now for some of the stupid stuff I said, especially while drunk, I mean, my God, let's move on and understand that people mature, they change perspectives, and give them a chance at least to show that instead of instantly assuming the worst.
I would be shocked if anybody was like, you were so drunk and you were saying this. Like, think about what just came out of your mouth. The
Right.
context of what you're taking offense to. He was shit-faced. So, not holding back.
Right.
Versus sober, has all his faculties, not going to say shit like that. Now, I'm not a drinker. I've never been drunk. I live a sober lifestyle.
Right.
In some ways, it benefits me. In other ways, some people think it kind of handicaps my ability to cope.
You bitch!
Rationally with all the stress in my life. But I want to look back at, like, high school, right? So, 96 through 2000.
Sure.
Not that I went for 5 years, but I started in the fall of 96. I graduated in the summer of 2000.
I understand.
Well, not everybody's good with math.
I went to high school too, so.
Do you remember back in those days when you would call things you didn't like gay?
I still have a problem saying that to this day, or catching myself saying that. Yeah, we did that a lot because it was just a term for something that sucked. Yeah.
And you weren't even saying it about gay people.
No.
Hi.
I mean...
But, in hindsight, Uh-oh.
Right.
Because I had a teacher. He was my favorite teacher.
Okay.
And he did like religion class and philosophy class. He was going on sabbatical to finish a book.
Oh, really?
And he's like, well, I'm gone. I want you, he points at me, and you, he points at this other kid, Josh. He's like, I want you guys to focus on one thing for me while I'm gone. I want you to try to stop calling things you don't like or things that you don't agree with gay. I think he had a son who was.
Oh.
He approached it very diplomatically. He's like, I want you to try that. I fucking actually did. Mm-hmm. I was like, okay, game on. And then I just started calling more things retarded.
Oh, so you traded it for another.
Yeah, why not? I mean, I learned something about myself.
Yeah.
But think of one thing that you may regret in your life. Something simple. Like, oh, man, I remember when I said this really stupid thing to a girl, and then she thought I was an idiot.
Okay, yeah, I got a few of them.
Go on.
Oh, okay, so the one that came to mind, originally there was a few of them. You know, some of them are kind of heavy, but we'll go with a lighter one. Well, this might still be offensive. But this goes to show you how dumb the male mind can be, especially when you've got booze in you, right? So,
right.
Some friends and I, we were hopping around from house party to house party on the Hamlin campus. Basically, my friends and I, we were past college age, but we still had a friend who was in school, was a senior there, was a fullback on the football team, so we basically could get into all these different parties. So we're just bouncing around, and I think we're probably at the third or fourth one, and I am gone, right? I remember some things, but I was pretty inebriated. And I just remember there was this big kind of Amazonian girl there with a tight shirt and huge cans, and I called her Jugsy or something like that, to that effect. And she instantly went, what was that? You know.
Because she was taller than you.
And that was where I was looking because, well, I'm not, very tall. But anyway, so it was one of those things I instantly regretted. I regretted it later because it was just demeaning. It was stupid. And I probably should have been punched by her friends or her boyfriend or somebody else. But, yeah. Or her, even.
Right.
Yeah. Needless to say, that was the night we stole a big stuffed blue marlin off the wall at that same house.
Like an actual marlin that had been stuffed and mounted, or you're talking a stuffed animal of a marlin?
No, it was actually, well, to say it was an actual stuffed marlin, it was a pretty damn good replica. But yeah, it was like full size. Man. They had it hanging on the wall, and the house was called the Blue Marlin, and we stole it that night.
Yeah.
Caused some havoc. Anyway, different story, different
One
time.
thing I'm torn on is, and I've talked about this on the show, or maybe it was on Blumpkin and Friends, I'm not sure which one, but we had this janitor when I was in junior high, and he was a little mentally deficient.
Oh.
So people thought it was so funny at the end of the day, he'd go to vacuum, and he'd plug the cord in, like, out the door of the classroom and down the hall. So he's nowhere near where he is with the plug. And you unplug it, and you just hear, plug it back in! He just screamed, like, fucking ridiculously. And one time, I went to the bathroom, and he was pooping. I'm like, you going, poops? You taking a shit, huh? He's like, fuck you. Because he swore. And he got away with it because he was a little, dee-dee. And then I shut the light off for a second, and he's like, turn it back on! It's funny how he just flipped the switch to instant red line anger. So I turned it back on. And then I pissed. And then I washed my hands. And then I shut the light off and I left.
Oh, of course.
And I could hear him yelling
Yeah.
down the hall. That was not nice because he was probably pooping or masturbating or both.
Either way, he was on his time.
He had to get up and walk in the dark, hopefully operating by feel, to find the light switch. Or maybe somebody came in
or
and put
just
it on,
keep
but
yelling. Exactly, yeah.
I feel bad about that. And that's something I should feel bad about.
I have another one.
Go ahead.
This would have been 6th grade. First half of the year, I actually went to Matamidi. That's where I'd gone from 3rd to like 6th, obviously, first half of 6th grade. And I just remember we were playing outdoor FIAD.
Mm-hmm.
We were doing a football unit, right? And so there was a couple of gals that were throwing the ball back and forth, and they were kind of the tomboys of the class. And I made a comment to one of the other boys about throwing it like a girl. And I just remember one of the girls putting her hands on her hip and turning around with a disgusted look on her face. Like, are you kidding me? You know what I mean? Like, and that's where it kind of first set into me, like, oh, that was kind of a dickhead thing to say in kind of a demeaning way, because I don't know. There was nothing wrong with throwing like a girl, right? But as you said about things being gay, though, you know what I mean? And certain things that were always...
You're punching down, as
exactly. And so that was kind of where I first learned that, too. So I regretted that instantly, yeah. Because I had a younger sister, you know. Kind of some of those things you don't think about when boys are just being boys growing up.
Looking at my life now and how it's drastically been altered by one person.
The Beast.
So I regret ever getting involved with her. It's a big regret. Because it has caused so much pain in my life. So much stress. And now one thing there is I have 2 children with her.
Right. That's a hard thing to say for a dad.
I've broken it down to them. I said, I never should have gotten involved with your mom. And I'm not saying I don't want you. But here's what I am saying is every time you cry because of our current life situation due to her drug use and Child Protective Services having to keep you away from her, or me having to spend $30,000 on a custody case, every time you feel bad from that, I feel bad because you're hurting. But I feel extra bad because I created you. It's a heavy weight, and I think about it all the time. And like I've said to him, like, if I had sent your mom to jail the first time she blacked out drunk and beat me up, the juice would have been 2 months old. And Chi-Chi's like, well, then you wouldn't have me. I'm like, exactly. But she would have gotten the help that she needed way sooner. And I could have probably just been done with her then and not dealt with a lot more shit. But who knows?
Right. You never know what that path would have been. Unfortunately, you can think many things, and that's the problem with regret.
Well, now, I've brought up some regrets I have when talking with my wife one night when we were laying in bed. And she's like, I just don't get why people hold on to stuff like that. Now, for me, what I relate to her was something very emotional. And she posed it as wasted worry, which is the other side of regret if you're responsible. I'm not talking about those douchebags like, yeah, no regrets, fuck it all. I'm going to drink this and I'm going to smoke that and I'm going to fuck everybody. Who cares what happens? No, I'm saying, and this is part of the discussion with my therapist, he's like, but you can't change the past. So while you should look back and have regrets that show that you've matured and reflected on it, you shouldn't let it haunt you to the point where you're just focused on how fucked up everything is. And I have a hard time not getting that way with where I'm at with everything right now. Like, oh, I fucked up here, I fucked up there, I caused all this shit. But while I do see the point about it being wasted worry, to a certain extent, if you've caused misery for other people with your bad choices, I feel that's my cross to bear. Now, I could just be like, okay, I figured it out, I fucked up there, and just move on. I don't know, I gotta like drag myself across the coals, almost like spiritual self-mutilation, so I can really respect the gravity of how the direction of my life has gone the last 3 years with a number of choices I've made. Or the last 12 years in terms of...
The Beast.
I could understand that. I was going to say that I think you hit it on the head. Basically, the way I look at it with regrets is you need to have them. You need to look back and reflect and think of ways you could have handled any situation better, whether it's positively, negatively. You need to do that, but you can't let it cripple you, right? And I think that's where a lot of us have problems. That's where I've actually struggled myself in the past, is you feel so weighed down by the amount of regret you have because of the things that have not gone your way or the decisions you feel you haven't made, the correct ones. You know, I think like anything in life, it's only good is if you can use it as a tool. All of us will weight it differently. For me, I weight it pretty heavily too, so I will make the proper change, right? So I won't be likely to make that same decision again that I'll regret. You know, hopefully next time I'll make the right decision, right? You also have to look at your current situation. If you don't like where you're at, I think you're somebody who's going to look back at your life and say there's a lot of regret. If you like your current situation, you're going to look back and say, I don't have much regret because I like where I'm at right now, and every decision has led me to being here.
And if you're emotionally immature and in your late 20s, 30s, or 40s, you're just going to be like, I don't care.
Right.
Interact with the show on Twitter at What Do We Call It. That is at What Do We Call It. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/group/What Do We Call It podcast show. For the What Do We Call It podcast, I'm Jmann.
This is Steiny.
And that's the end.